Colin White is the reigning National Hot Rod points champion and has won a heat already this weekend for the National Hot Rod National Championship.
We've had an excellent weekend. We've had 2/3 in the qualifying heats, and we won one of the heats from middle of the grid, which has then given us pole position for today.
Things will be a bit tight round Hednesford, won't they?
Yes, it's a very, very fast racetrack, but the corner's a little bit tight coming out, and there's a lot of cars out there, so it'll be tight, clean racing.
Now you're racing for Fiesta, Colin. It doesn't look like your everyday shopping car, does it?
No, it's just a Fiesta look-alike. If the mode's actually taken off the car, then you expand the wings out to cover the big racing slicks, and it's a fully tubular space frame chassis, so there's nothing left of a standard Fiesta.
How much would it weigh, say, in comparison to a Fiesta? Half the weight?
Yes, half the weight. Everything is all Kevlar panels, which means it's extremely light, and we've got a weight limit on there, and we all like to try and keep that within that.
What about the power?
The power is, this car is powered by a Peugeot 1900 engine, which you find in the Citroens and the Peugeot cars, and it's full race, so every component has been handmade.
But opposition to Colin this weekend comes from John Stewart, aiming to be only the second man in history to win the National Championship 3 years in a row. The only other driver to have done so was Pete Stevens in the early 1980s. However, the weekend so far hasn't exactly been trouble-free for John Stewart.
We've had trouble with the car, distributor. We think it's the distributor. Hopefully we can cure it today, and then hopefully we can be amongst them.
Is that causing misfire?
No, it's just caused it to stop altogether. 2 races I didn't finish at all, so bad news. I'm back on the 5th row now, so all the quick ones are obviously at the front. Might be a bit of a task, but a couple of stoppages and we might be amongst them, so let's just hope it all goes well.
And so on to the grand final for the National Hot Rods National Championship for the first time over 75 laps, and the grid will be formed up by the points the drivers have scored in the heats earlier on in the weekend. And that means that on pole position is 718 Colin White, the reigning National Hot Rod points champion, and at the moment he is second in the national points table. He's had one heat win and starts in the ideal place to score victory for the first time in the National Championship. Alongside Colin, though, on the front row of the grid is another major force to be reckoned with. Ricky Hunn has won the National Championship twice before, in 1993 and 1994. And this season he's been splitting his time not only between National Hot Rods, but also in pickup truck racing as part of the new and very exciting Eurocar package. So the front row, Colin White and Ricky Hunn, both of whom won a heat earlier on in the weekend. On the second row of the grid, though, is the highest placed Irish driver. Keith Martin from Northern Ireland lines up on the inside of that row in 994, with alongside him the 1991 world champion Roger Peck in 413. And John Stewart, complete with the onboard camera, starts only on the 5th row of the grid. At the moment, he's very much the hot property in National Hot Rod racing. The Essex haulier hoping to be only the second man to win the National Hot Rod National Championship in history. But after a puncture in the earlier heats, he lines up on the inside of row 5, and that is going to leave him with an awful lot of work to do. And there is the man, 5 times a world champion, Ormond Christie, who returned to the sport this season and conquered all despite a rather oily, smoky car at Ipswich to win the world final earlier on in the season. We're looking back from Ricky Hunn's Peugeot 205 then, as the cars make their way round the final warming up lap. Colin White on the inside of the front row, Ricky Hunn alongside him, and for the first time in the event's history it's going to be a 75 lap grand final, and John Stewart has left himself with a great deal of work to do. He'll be eager though to make it 3 in a row here at Hednesford. The cars make their way round then the final corner any moment now. The lights will go to green, and for 75 laps of racing we'll be in business. It's up now to Colin White to control the pace. There's the green flag, the lights go to green, we're racing at Hednesford. Across the line then with Colin White just squeezing into the lead as they go to the first corner. Ricky Hunn tucks in second place, right on his tail. Keith Martin third, leading the chasing pack. As for the first time they go to the west bend. Up across the line, we look back for Ricky Hunn's car. There is Keith Martin right behind him, and Keith having a look on the inside. He can't do anything about Ricky Hunn's very wide Peugeot there, but now he dives up the inside, going onto the back straight, and that should give him second place. Side by side, going down to the west bend, and Keith Martin goes through with Roger Peck in 4th place in 413, looking for a way past as well. And John Stewart from the 5th row of the grid is already up into 5th place, right on the tail of Roger Peck. You'll notice that the National Hot Rods run clockwise, unlike the Rebels that were anti-clockwise. The reason for that being to try and keep the driver as far away from the safety fence as possible. Peck runs wide. We're on board again with John Stewart, giving Ricky Hunt a little tap in the tail. It unsettles him. Roger Peck gets caught up in it as well. Way out wide goes Roger Peck. He's lost 1, 2 and about to lose 3 places as Roger Peck sorts himself out. And John Stewart, with a rather robust manoeuvre, finds himself now right into the top 3. Race order at the moment. Up front is Colin White. In second place is Keith Martin. And John Stewart is absolutely storming. So too is 962 Ormond Christie there. He looks for a way past Roger Peck as they go through the West Bend. Ahead of the pair of them is Gordon Bland, returning to National Hot Rod Racing this weekend in a car that Shane Bland, his son, has been racing this year, as we have a look at a replay of that incident involving Peck, Stewart and Hunt. John Stewart clips the tail of Ricky Hunt's car, it unsettles him, it goes one way, it goes the other, and as Ricky tries to sort himself out, Roger Peck is left high and wide with nowhere to go. Now John Stewart right on the tail of Keith Martin and going for second place as they go to the back straight. John Stewart, the Essex haulier, looking for a way past the Northern Irishman, side by side through the West Bend, and through he goes as Colin White is now getting delayed by traffic. He's trying to find a way past Ian Butler. He has to go the long way round on the outside, and there's contact. He gets all crossed up and John Stewart goes through. John Stewart goes through into the lead. Colin White down to second place, but coming back at Stewart now. John Stewart in the red and green Peugeot 205 leads the blue Fiesta of Colin White, and already from the 5th row of the grid, John Stewart is in the lead and pulling away. Colin White already coming under pressure from Keith Martin. Well, so far we've not really seen Keith be able to do much about Colin White, but it's not for the want of trying. In 4th place is Ricky Hunt, and there a bit of smoke from the back of the car. Now I wonder whether or not in that clash earlier on, Ricky may have sustained some damage to the Peugeot. Down the back straight he goes. Now he turns through the West Bend, heading up towards the start and finish line. So very, very fast. Hednesford Raceway playing host to some magnificent racing this weekend, and John Stewart will no doubt nod in agreement. He leads, but he's about to have a rather busy circuit. He's coming up to slower cars. Volker Timms, Volkswagen Corrado, the unique hot rod Corrado, about to be lapped, and Volker Timms sees the blue flag. He keeps out of the way. John Stewart's lead is starting to increase. Colin White still there in second place. Colin, who has yet to win the National Championship, was ideally placed to do it this weekend. It's not happened though. A very busy circuit, lots of battles going on all the way through the field, as there with smoke pouring off the front of the car, Pat Canavan dives into the West Bend. Now, got a major problem, or was he just locking up? The car is slow out of the corner, and also in trouble is Gordon Bland. He's obviously made contact with something, and Gordon Bland's return to National Hot Rod Racing has not been a happy one for him. He first won the National Championship back in 1979. He's not going to win it this weekend, nor is Pat Canavan, because he too limps off the circuit. Smoke pouring from the front left corner. Now, is there a connection between Canavan's retirement and that of Gordon Bland? The local driver clambers out of the car, trudges away, and doesn't exactly look over the moon. So, a waved yellow flag called for by the steward, and that means that the field, with no overtaking, lines up in formation. And this is how Gordon Bland's race came to an end. Ormond Christie looking for a way past him on the inside. There's contact between the two, and wallop! Gordon Bland's car sent at unabated speed into the barrier. Damage done to the front of it, it spins back into the circuit, and the clerk of the course wants it moving before racing can carry on, because of course it narrows the line through that corner, and as soon as the very busy Inca Race marshals have moved it out of harm's way, so the green flag can fly once again. And what that means, of course, is that John Stewart's lead has virtually diminished, because he's got Colin White right back on his tail. We're looking back from Ricky Hunt's Peugeot as he makes his way onto the back straight for the first time. Roger Peck with a lot of work to do still, and right up behind him is Ormond Christie. Ricky Hunt able to pull away from that pack behind as he dives now into the East Bend. Onto the power, onto the back straight he goes. Great news for Hahn is that he is being able to respond to the challenge and pull away from that pack behind. But what can John Stewart, the race leader, do to pull away from Colin White? There in third is Keith Martin, and Ricky Hunt, the man to watch again. As a result of that wave yellow, he's had a new lease of life as there's more contact off in a very big way there. Goes 115, all up the bank goes David Hare, and that, I fear, is his race over and done with. I suspect that might have started with a little bit of contact from cars behind him, but whatever, a very big moment indeed for Dave Hare, and that is his race over. Keith Martin losing touch now with second place man Colin White. As we see a replay, there was indeed contact, and David Hare sent skywards. Up the victory ramp he goes. The car crash lands, and with very damaged suspension, no doubt, he, despite the fact that he's okay, is out of the race. He trudges away, as once again the traffic now playing a part in the race. Colin White sliding through on the inside there. John Stewart about to lap Mark to Ricky's car as he comes down through the West Bend, and you can see just how busy the circuit is ahead of him. Across the line he goes. He laps to Ricky on the inside. His next target is going to be the Irish driver Alvin Doak, who this year is racing the ex-Ian McCalla car. And we've seen